storm are up to the size of golf balls, not tennis balls like we were picking up on a while ago, but definitely with wind gusts of around 50 to 60 miles an hour, and still getting golf ball size hail. It's going to strip of their leaves, could be damaging to your garden. Could be damaging to your car, to say the least, if it was left outside. We do have some other hail video. Came in a little while ago. This was actually when the storm was up in McPherson County. This is what some of you are looking out your window seeing right now in Wichita. But again, this was in McPherson, and this is kind of where the storm really started to take off. We had tennis ball size hail confirmed in McPherson at about 6 o'clock this evening. That same thunderstorm has really not lost much of its intensity and is now coming through central and eastern parts of Wichita. Let's hope we don't get any tennis ball size hail in this storm. Does look like it's out of a weakening, but that's been earlier today up in Jefferson County. Back over to the radar, and again, if we get a chance to bring Skycam back into view, I know we're coming up here on sunset, so eventually we're not going to get quite the visibility, and we really don't have much visibility at the moment because of the heavy rain. The storm is still moving southeast at around 30 miles an hour. The rainfall that's coming down with the storm is also quite spectacular, too. If you're out driving around in some of this, we do know that the heavy rainfall can sometimes lead to flooding on the streets that are prone to flooding. Like, hear a lot about that in the news when we get some heavy rainfall. Well, as far as how heavy the rain is coming down across the Wichita and more specifically areas east of 135, this could easily be 1 to 2 inches per hour. Difficult to drive through. If you are caught in the storm, the one thing you don't want to do is come to a complete stop under an overpass, because that is recipe for a big traffic accident. People come up from behind. They may not see you. They could slam into the back of you. So you've got to keep in these heavy rainfall situations. I know the temptation is real to stop under a pass because it's protecting you from the very heavy rainfall, but that's a very bad thing to do. You want to keep moving, even if it's only 15, 20, 30 miles an hour. If you can keep moving along, that is the best way to avoid creating a big traffic nightmare. Something that we do from time to time, and we know a lot of people earlier today in Salina were sheltering under an overpass because of heavy rain and hail that went through that area. So latest scans on the radar have the hail now over central. And that would be central to the east of 135, and it looks like even Kellogg would be experiencing some hail at the moment. We are starting to see things let up now at our Channel 12 studio on the north side of town, and it's a spectacular shot for those of you watching on television, because we're just about ready to see the sun set now that the heavy rain has moved on to the south of our TV station at 37th Street North and Hillside. Looking at the radar presentation, the heaviest rain and the heaviest hail, the largest hail, is now east of 135. The south edge of the storm now just south of Kellogg. That's where you'd start to get into some of the hail, and it looks like by my account now our hail size is down to about 1 inch in diameter, certainly smaller than where the storm was several minutes ago. In fact, now the radar is estimating hailstones of about quarter size. That would be much better than the tennis ball size that we were picking up on when the storm was near Valley Center. I do want to check in on the storm coming in from Harvey County, because as we told you a little while ago, that would be on a path that would potentially bring it back into northwest parts of Sedgwick County, and a storm that looked like it had picked up some steam. Now right there, we're detecting the storm. It looks like it's south of the Halstead area, getting ready to move in on the Bentley vicinity, northwest Sedgwick County. Again, we're watching another thunderstorm that's coming at us with the possibility of some large hail, maybe up to the size of balls. We're still detecting some large hail, and that's what's being made by our radar at the in the storm center. It looks like hail size still up to 2 inches in diameter. And it's kind of interesting, because those of you that are looking at our Skycam, we've now got it pointed back toward the north. We can definitely see with a very visual storm number coming at us from the northwest. It could just be a repeat of what we're seeing come across the city. Some more hail pictures on in. Again, for you that are listening on KNSS, we're chasing on TV some more hail video from Harvey County. It looks like, by all accounts, maybe some golf ice hail that fell to the west of Newton. The city of Newton kind of lucked out tonight, because most of the larger hail passed to the west of town and came right through the city of Sedgwick and then got down into Valley Center areas across the city of Wichita. But it has been, for sure, that numbered all of the wind reports that have been trickling in. We've had hail ranging anywhere from quarter size all the way up to baseballs from McPherson County, from Harvey. Fortunately, so far in Sedgwick County, we have had at golf ball size. Doesn't mean that this next storm coming in could perform the first one that rolled on through, but at the moment, we're looking at 2-inch size hail As far as the location on that large hail, again, it's moving in on Bentley as we speak. So the hail core looks like it's right on the Sedgwick-Harvey County line, moving in on the city of Bentley. What we're showing you here is the estimated hail size according to radar, and it's still very much up around 2 inches in diameter. Also be some strong wind gusts of about 50 to 60 with the storm, although we have not had any eyewitness accounts confirming wind of that magnitude. So a little bit bigger picture here, so you can see how everything looks. Again, for those of you listening to our coverage on the radio, we've got one thunderstorm in East Wichita. That's the one that started all of this. And then there's one coming in right behind it that's right on the Sedgwick-Harvey County line, still west. Thunderstorms continue on to the southeast at roughly 30 miles an hour. Fairly small, compact storms, we should point, but they are packing quite a punch. Fortunately, the storm that's in East Wichita loses a little bit of its momentum. We're thinking wind gusts 60 miles an hour. The hail thunderstorms like we're quarter size now, and actually the one that's coming in right behind it looks a little bit more intense than the storm that's now in East Wichita. We'll see how that evolves. What's kind of interesting to watch when you have one storm that's following another, sometimes the humidity gets taken away, and so as the storm comes in behind it, sometimes the environment being rain cooled, less humidity, can make it more for it to weaken. That doesn't always happen that way, but it is something that we'll be watching for as we continue on with our coverage here, and we've got these hail producing storms. So you can see the split that's playing out here. Storm in Wichita, quarter size, the storm right behind it that's now moving in on the Sedgwick, also capable of producing some larger hail. So the city of Wichita is certainly not out of the woods, but if you're from Andale west out toward Mount Hope, Haven, eastern side of Reno County, the storm is safely going to pass to your east. But what we're showcasing television, again, another spectacular looking back to the north and west. In fact, we're going to go ahead and take that view full screen so we can show you watch coverage on TV just how amazing this looks. I mean, scientifically speaking, when we talk about rotating thunderstorms, this is about as classic as you get. You've got warm air that's going up into the storm. Again, the entire thing is rotating counterclockwise, and you get these low cloud fractures. They're kind of fractured from the storm base and can lead you to believe that it's a funnel cloud. But that's not actually what's happening. I mean, this is warm air that's getting drawn up into the storm. And then this little cloud feature over here on the right part is pointing toward the heavy rain and the hail. So sometimes what happens draft where the warm air is going will latch onto the rain that's over here on the right part of the screen and draw it into the storm, creating that little cloud, basically like a finger that's pointing toward the heavy rain and the hail. So kind of an look to the storm. And right here, these striations that show up in the clouds tell the entire thing is rotating like a top. But just because it's a rotating storm does not mean that it's going to produce a tornado. We've got to keep that in mind. This is a very different setup tonight than what we might see in springtime, early summer. For those of you that are out driving around listening to our coverage on KNSS, again, we have two thunderstorms kind of starting to lose some of its steam, but still looks like it's capable of producing some hail. Golf ball size or smaller. I think that's what's going on at the moment. We'll check these storms in a second. The second storm, which is what we're showcasing with our Skycam on the north side of Wichita looking northwest, that's what's coming through the town of Sedgwick and Bentley as we speak. We could be getting some wind gusts 60 miles an hour and another round of some larger hail. As far as the most recent hail reports go, again, these are eyewitness accounts. Somebody has called this in or reported it from near downtown. Got another report of some hailstones. Okay, this would be the largest that we've seen so far this evening at 2.8 inches in diameter. That would put it baseball size 740 this evening. Appears to be the largest hail report that we've had so far. We got another one right along 135 west of KWCH. That's golf ball size hail that was reported as the storm came through those areas in and around Park City. So a damaging thunderstorm now kind of in East Wichita. The western 135 along into the south of Kellogg, areas of southeast west. Storm 1 coming in, it will be Storm 2, and once that is now influenced up here around the Bentley area, looks like we have indications once again a large hail falling to the west of this is a different path than the first storm was on, but around here along 100, there's 109th Street. So just Bentley by once again sampling some more large hail that's coming with this. To be a further west, but areas west of Valley. Heads up from Bentley to Valley Center in those areas, kind of in those two cities, is where we're picking up on some of the larger hail. Let's do some big Valor. This one, where again the radar was on some hailstone balls. Now, I think of that size in this video, it almost looks like a wintry scene. The leaves on the tree that it's a winter that's been falling with this storm and start to accumulate there. In the my account, looks like a lot of that is hail that's golf ball or smaller. as that thunderstorm does continue to work its way to Wichita, and some larger hail is ongoing at the present time. Back over to Skycam. This storm, where we're picking on some rotation, and again, we're going to mention rotation. That doesn't mean that the storm is going to produce a tornado. We saw a similar thing happen about 20 minutes with storm number 1. Never had a tornado. But this part of the storm does continue to, and then cloud feature over here, again, the inhaling. So as it inhales, it's drawing some of that humid air, the rain, up in, and it sticks out like a finger pointing toward the heavy rain and the hail. So that's where the heavy rain and the hail is going to be, is right on the screen. But this storm is going to get a lot of attention for just the looks. Very ominous looking cloud, kind of rotates, passes ahead, being a funnel cloud or a tornado out of this kind of environment tonight is exceptionally low. So we're not going to be sounding any kind of tornado warnings or anything like that based on the current environment that we're in at the present. So east of Bentley now, again, a very intense thunderstorm, and this is going to be into northwest Wichita. If it doesn't weaken from what we have right now, once again, we're facing another threat here of some very large hail, tennis to maybe baseball size. Based on that we have showing up now. Let's go ahead and a little bit further south and east, right there along 93rd Street. Large hail possible. That would put it north of K96. For any might be traveling K96 out toward the Mays area, you're probably safe to continue on to the northwest because the largest is likely going to stay north of K96, but areas west of 135 now to the west of Valley Center, as we can see some of that larger hail. So again, as we join our weather partners, we continue to simulcast both on television and with our radio partner. We want you to be fully aware of what's happening right now because two separate areas of sedge. First, the most damaging thunderstorm that we have in the county right now is the storm that's north of Mays and west of Center, right here along 53rd Street north of K90, where we're picking up on the possibility of hailstones that could be tennis to baseball size. That thunderstorm will be impacting areas west of Ridge Road now, and with a southeasterly trend on that storm, it's possible that northwest Utah could be hit by some larger hail. This is a little further west than our initial storm out to be, which happens to now be southeast parts of the city. And as we shift our radar, up to date on what's happening now in southeast parts of the city around 47th Street South, which again we're putting just to the northeast of me, and this is going to be just to the east. There's McConnell Air Force Base, the landing just to the pike, if you will. The largest hail looks like it's just east of McConnell and continuing to drop to the south and east. So there's Green Road. Of course, you see Rose talking about extreme Butler County. This thunderstorm still capable of producing some very large hail as it moves along to the southeast at around 30 to 35 miles an hour. Again, a real split screen play here because we've got one big thunderstorm in the southeast part of the city and another one that's coming in right behind. But it does to get some destructive. And of course, we've had some wind reports to most around 50 to 60 miles, but both continue to be hail concerns as they move along to the south and east. For those watching, again, we're showcasing the storm that's past. We take a little wider angle on storms. Basically, we're focused on Sedgwick County because there's not much else going on outside of the city. This is where we have the severe weather happening, right? It's blowing through fairly quickly. We're just at the 8 o'clock hour. By my accounts, I think here in the next 45 minutes to an hour, we'll get this county out of the city. But again, as we can play through, we've got two separate thunderstorms, southeast Wichita now, and then the other one that's coming in from the north and west. Let's go back over and again kind of show the view from our cam. We're at 7th North and Hillside. We're looking to the northwest. The sun has already gone down for the day, but illuminating these very low hanging clouds. Not a tornado, not a wall cloud. As we continue to watch, you know, if we were out spotting this storm and reporting back to whether it be the National Weather Service or to our team of meteorologists, looking at this and the small rotating features are not showing up. That's why we're not that concerned about a tornado or thunderstorm 20, 30,000 feet above us. That entire thing is waiting, which creates some ominous looking clouds. But again, the likelihood of a tornado from this concerned about tonight. We got a heavy rain. There's going to be some hail with this. Starting to see some of that on the right side of the picture. That's what's happening over here. That's going to be rain. These cloud features. Sometimes we call them scary looking clouds because that's essentially what they are. Not a wall cloud, not even really a shelf cloud from this vantage point here. When you get a lot of humidity in the air, these thunderstorms will sometimes produce these scary looking clouds. Back over to the radar again so we can kind of set everything up for you. I know we're in continuous coverage on KNSS. We welcome those of you that are listening to our radio coverage, maybe out driving around in one thunderstorms. There is a break in the active weather in downtown Wichita right now, but storm number 2 is quickly approaching from the northwest and it is farther west than our initial storm. So the largest hail that's happening now with what's coming at us from the northwest is along Tyler Road and Ridge Road. And that's going to be coming into areas just around and to the east of Mays. So if you're in that area of northwest Wichita, again, you want to be sheltered, stay away from windows, because if we do wind up getting some golf ball to tennis ball size hail, it would not be that much of a stretch of the imagination that some windows could be knocked out by hail of that magnitude. But there you get into the darker shades of red and blue. Not always telling us that there's large hail. We'll switch over and show you the hail product here, because this is the radar sampling the storm, and it is still very hot here on large hail now just north of Mays. This would be north on Mays Road, north of the city of Mays. You know, how large of a hail are we talking about? Well, estimated by the computer to be closer to, I believe that's going to put us up closer to baseball size now on this thunderstorm there. Again, this would be to the north of Mays. Let's move just a little bit further north. When we start to get into those yellows and oranges, again, we're getting up closer to 3 inches in diameter. That's why I'm a little bit concerned that maybe this storm has even larger hail than the initial one that came on through. But that storm is a damaging one that's coming on through the immediate area. So again, this is a large hail producing storm that's now just to the north of Mays, continuing to drop onto the south. And you can see right there along 69th Street North, there's Ridge Road, the city of Mays, there's K96. So that north of the city of Mays where we're picking up on some of the largest hail. And if that storm continues to go southeast like the previous one did, you know, there's a chance that areas that were missed by the initial storm are going to get hit by this one that's coming back in from the north and west. The picture, by the way, that's from our tower here at 37th Street North and Hillside looking back toward the west. So that's the storm that we're presenting there. If we go farther south, for those of you that are listening to our radio coverage, maybe traveling in southeast Wichita, we've got heavy rain, we've got some hail. It looks like it's smaller now, maybe quarter size up to golf balls along 47th Street South. So we've got it just northeast of Derby. In the city of Derby itself, it doesn't look like there's too much destructive weather happening right now. And the thunderstorm itself, this is the first one, by the way, is passing just east of the city of Derby, kind of in between Derby and Rose Hill, where we could be getting into some of that quarter-size hail. So this storm does look a little weaker than where we were 20 or 30 minutes ago as it continues on to the south and east. But I will point out there will probably be some additional severe thunderstorm warnings because it doesn't look like it has completely lost all of its steam so far. It's just not the magnitude of the storm that we are tracking now coming back into northwest Wichita. Other scattered thunderstorms around Clearwater. We've got another one that's right on the Sumner-Sedgwick County line. That storm also not looking all that spectacular, but at the moment we continue to be very focused on what's coming back in from the northwest because this one looks more intense than the first storm did. We'll see what we get out of it because if you're just now joining our coverage, we did get confirmation of some baseball-sized hail. I don't know if it was just one stone or a whole bunch of hailstones of that size, but right along 135 near downtown Wichita, there was an eyewitness account of at least some baseball-sized hail. Obviously, you don't need me to tell you how destructive that can be. If you get a bunch of those hailstones driven by some wind gusts of around 60 miles an hour, that's problematic. Now, the second storm that's coming in through the Mays area, again, this is along Ridge and Tyler Road. It looks like, once again, hail is going to be our primary focus as it moves along to the south and east. And those pictures that we're showcasing on TV, live images from our Skycam pointed back to the west and northwest. So we're located over here just east of 135 looking back toward that storm, and it definitely still not showing much sign of weakening with the core right now at 53rd and Ridge Road continuing to go southeast. I think it's safe to say KWCH, Bel Air, even around Park City, the largest hail that's going to fall with this storm should pass to your west. But I think the larger hail will miss places that were hit by the previous storm. So 53rd and Ridge, some of the strongest indications on radar of large hail are in that vicinity and continuing to go southeast. So if you're traveling on 235, the storm is approaching and large hail again continues to be the main focus. You may be driving around seeing some very low-hanging clouds, some interesting cloud features. That's what we're showcasing on TV too, but I can say with a very high level of certainty here, this is heavy rain, this is hail, some gusty winds, but this does not, despite the fact that these cloud features look very ominous, this does not look like a tornado setup for tonight. Again, this is primarily going to be hail but it is going to be destructive hail to say the least. Now, the hail indications are a little bit weaker than what we had 10 minutes ago, but it's still right on Ridge Road. And it looks like areas along West Street and just west of there potentially impacted by some larger hail, and that does continue to drop onto the southeast at around 35 miles an hour. So if you're around 21st Street and west of 235, again, you're moving into the vicinity of this hail-producing storm. Okay, there's a new scan that's just come in now on the hail. Little bit weaker from what we had 10 minutes ago. We like the trend. Things are moving in the right direction when it comes to large hail. Let's hope we keep going that way. Perhaps, as I mentioned about 15 minutes ago, as this storm encounters a rain-cooled environment, there sometimes is a tendency for the storm that's coming in behind it. It doesn't have quite as much fuel to it as the initial storm did. So maybe that's working in our favor here to bring a weakening trend to the storm that's in northwest Wichita. But areas out here to the west of 235, that again is the highway that shows up on here, of course, loops out by the zoo. West Wichita, northwest Wichita, that's where we're once again picking up on some larger hail at the present time. Again, it continues to drop onto the south and east. I want you to see big picture here, south central Kansas, because we now have northwest Cowley County, southwest Butler County in a severe thunderstorm warning. That's the initial storm that came into Wichita, but as we said a little while ago, definitely on a weakening trend there. So we would anticipate maybe quarter-size hail there around Rose Hill and east of Derby. The other storm that's coming into the city, northwest Wichita, that's the one that still looks a little more potent. Other storms, we western Greenwood County, got another one out here south of Kingman. Those are nowhere close to the magnitude of the storm that's now in northwest Wichita, and we're hoping that we're going to start seeing a significant downward trend in the storm in the city of Wichita. But again, we continue to see indications on radar near 53rd and Road. Some of the largest hail may still be falling in that general area. How large of hail? Looking like maybe now below 2 inches in diameter based on some of the most recent scans on radar. Maybe we're dealing with something like ping pong to golf ball size on the storm that's now just around and to the east of Mays, 53rd Street North. Areas just to the south of there very much could be experiencing hail, and it does continue to drop to the southeast. We've also got K96 now being impacted by some larger hail, and as the new scan, let's drop off some of these storm markers so we can get a better picture here of the storm. Ridge Road, south out of Mays, large hail, also tremendous rainfall. I mean, at rates of maybe 1 inch, 2 inches per hour to be experienced. And I haven't shown this to you yet this evening, but lightning, we're getting a lot of that. Could some sporadic power outages, so be prepared for that. Hopefully, extended issue for us tonight, but of course, an electrical storm coming on through that may cause some options as we move through the rest of it. So we now have a storm. We've also had larger hail as well, and once again, areas that were missed by the initial storm are now getting hit with some larger hail. That does include Ridge Road area, the zoo, just to the west of there, Loop, and again, out along 21st, Ridge Road. You know, some of those intersections are certainly getting hit with some larger hail right now, and the storm does continue to go on to the south and east. Next in looks like south, we're going to be talking about areas south of 21st, perhaps on 13th Street. Though we're still with storm 2 that's coming in on the part. So again, storm number 1 kind of went 45 and east. This one is very much 135 at west. So everybody getting included in on some hail tonight. Those of you watching our coverage on TV, again, we do see live pictures 7th Street north and west. And we've got tremendous rainfall, ominous looking clouds. That sort of thing is just not expected tonight. But this is still a hail impacting area, which and now basically hasn't quite made it to downtown Wichita. It doesn't mean, but the large looks like it's 235 and west. We have to remember that a little bit between when the radar scans the storm and when we put TV. It's such of a time gap, but we're talking a minute between the radar scanning it and when it on TV. So what we're showing you in near real could, you know, be some larger hail now east of 235 in areas, again, in the Riverside area, perhaps rain starting there. The hail is going to be up too, but I do. This storm has a start scale back just a little bit here in terms of the larger hail. It does sound like we are getting wind gusts up around 70 miles an hour. Connell Air Force Base. I've been telling you this wind and hail, and that come on through. I'll say that again. Oakson, one of our storm chasers here at 12 is on the phone with us. Storms and especially Wichita, where are you this evening and what have you seen?
I am currently located along 37th Street, halfway between Ridge Road and Hoover. and 2-inch hail moved through here. Lasted for maybe 7 minutes. Winds were up to about 65, maybe 70. It was on sides coming in pretty hard. So if you're downstream, be because.
All right, and you still have power.
We do still have an area near 37th and Rich.
Ferguson, he's out in the Mays area, confirming some winds. And meteorologists estimating wind speeds are incredibly, now that we've lost our time, it's more of a challenge. So estimated 65 and up to the size of 2 inches in diameter, which, if you're not familiar, that would be larger than golf balls. Up to the size of an egg, if you will. That's what's been reported now from the Mays area. Thunderstorm continues to make a beast now and could be experiencing some of the pictures that we're still showing. That's downtown Wichita. That's from our epicenter looking west, and you're going to see these low-hanging clouds. When lightning flashes, you're going to see, some very interesting low-hanging. There's nothing road. It's not a tornado situation, but again, a damage. Wichita. The latest scans here. Let's go up to the curve. Half scans and what we're presenting here on TV. Some of this is going to be just at the ridge, but right along Ridge Road. That's going to be our western fringe of the largest hail tonight. But there's Hoover Road, and Lance had mentioned that too. There's the 235 loop that goes around the city, downtown Wichita, and so the largest hail still looks like it's just to the northwest of downtown. We can confirm that with our there, so we know the largest hail hasn't made it to downtown Wichita yet, but there's McLean Boulevard, so we're very much in the east. As for as we keep coming back, we started with stones estimated was about 15 to 20 minutes ago. Now right along 235, we're estimating golf ball size hail. That fits perfectly what Lance was reporting there near the Mays area. And now that golf ball hail is making a pass on Riverside, and it's going to be impacting areas of downtown Wichita here momentarily. So got maybe just a few minutes if you live in the downtown area or in that area traveling around and you can get out downtown Wichita. You've got another hailstorm that's coming in from the northwest, and it could easily be another round of some golf ball size hail. Blinding rainfall too. We haven't had much flooding reported tonight. Let's hope that holds up for us, but we do know there are some locations in Wichita that are prone to flooding, and they don't take on heavy rainfall all that well, and that does create a challenge if you're out driving around this evening as the heavy rain starts to engulf now the downtown Wichita area. So we are zoomed in very close. We do know there are some other warnings out there tonight. The storm, the first that came in, has continued to show some signs of weakening, but as we go down into Sumner County, we do have some strong thunderstorms north of Wellington and west of Belle Plaine. It's like the possibility of some quarter-size hail there in the northern part of Sumner County and also around Rose Hill. Down into northwest Cowley County, you've got a thunderstorm here that might produce some quarter-size hail. I will point out, though, that neither one of those storms in Sumner or Cowley County have had an eyewitness account of large hail so far. We'll see if that changes, but those are some of the initial storms that came through Wichita, and we continue to be laser focused on the storm at the moment. Now moving in on downtown Wichita with the possibility of golf ball size hail and winds that could be on the order of 60 to maybe 70 miles an hour. So a weaker from what we had 20 minutes ago, but we don't want to completely let our guard down as, again, this storm continues to work its way through the Wichita area. We do have an injury accident to tell you about. This is not a huge surprise. This is from the Can Drive cameras, or which way I should say. Looks like this is at I-35 and 61st Street North, and it looks like emergency crews there are on the scene of an accident. We don't know what the triage is on that yet, but that is not a huge surprise given not just the wind and the hail, but also the heavy rainfall. Again, this is 135 at 61st Street North. So we're talking about areas that are north of down Wichita. If you don't have to get out tonight, probably don't, and avoid that area. If you're listening to our coverage on KNSS, again, if you can stay out of that area, this is 135 and 61st Street North. You probably want to avoid that area as it looks like it's a traffic issue there, to say the least. Back over to the radar again. We've got two separate areas that we're looking at. One now moving through downtown Wichita. Based on the radar sampling, it still looks like we're dealing with some hailstones, maybe up to golf ball size as it comes through the downtown area. Our visibility is now starting to drop off from our camera that's on top of the epicenter. We're down to about maybe a mile visibility or so as the heavy rain starts through that area. Can't tell if there's hail falling from this view. But again, Lance Ferguson about 10 minutes ago reporting confirmed hail up to the size of golf balls, maybe slightly larger, and winds of around 65 to 70 miles an hour. And that storm now, the southern edge of it is road. and the northern fringe of it is basically the 135-235 junction on the north side of the city. So we're not a huge thunderstorm, but it's still now as it comes across Wichita. Continue to be very focused on south central Kansas because this is this moment, and it's not going to be with us for too much longer. We have been thinking by 9 o'clock tonight it would be out of here, and that time is still holding up well, as the cold front is going to force most of this active weather to get out of here, perhaps within the next hour or so. Another picture of some hail coming in this evening. This is going to be, okay, hail at Newman, I should say. We do have some hail now confirmed at Newman University. Of course, that would put us on the edge of downtown Wichita, just kind of fitting in with what we've been covering here so far. This is what we have as far as severe thunderstorm warnings go. Sedgwick County, Cowley County, and Sumner County, the small cluster of thunderstorms. There's the initial stuff that came through around 7 o'clock this evening, and here's our second storm. This should be the last one. So once it pushes on out of here, that's the end of it for us tonight as the cold front basically forces all of this active weather to get on out of here. Again, live picture downtown over left. Of course, we're now coming up on 8:30 in the evening, so we're not going to have that extra daylight, and with these storms on through, you know, working out those low-hanging cloud features that we had 30, 45 minutes ago. These storms continue to be ones to watch. Again, we don't have a tornado out there tonight. If you're concerned about that sort of thing, we're not picking up on any of that. As we continue to go in a little bit closer here, you can see the heavy rain and the hail now coming through down Central and Emporia. Here's a picture showing some of the hail, of course, falling. Some of that look all that large, perhaps maybe smaller than dimes. That's just from my vantage here, but a lot of heavy rain coming. Even some of the curbs are starting to fill up with some of the water. Not going to scenario because the storms are moving along. Some of these roads are collecting a little bit of water term because this latest storm should be out of here within the next 20 to 30 minutes, and that water will hopefully find a place to go. But if you do come to a road, it's covered. Perhaps maybe there's a barricade that goes up in some parts of the city. We'll respect that, turn around, find a different way. We don't want to bring that way because, you know, fast-moving water, flooded areas can sometimes be more powerful than we give respect to. Let's go back over to the radar tonight. Again, kind of setting things up here for the city of Wichita. The damaging storm right now is just south of MacArthur Road. Hasn't quite made it as far south as 71st Street South, but it's getting closer. There you see Central Avenue, and of course Kellogg is pretty well engulfed in heavy rainfall and some hail. Let's take another sample here because this is going to be our first indication on the direction the storm is moving. And now right in there on Meade Street, we're still picking up on some hail. Okay, still picking up on about golf ball size hail. Maintaining our steam. This thing continues to go along 135, now along Kellogg from downtown Wichita south toward MacArthur Road is where we're detecting some of that golf ball size hail at the present time. Even in a little closer here, you're going to see, okay, so there's hydraulics. So now the core of the hail of Kellogg right down here south of downtown Wichita, and still east of 235. There's Hoover Road, there's MacArthur. So we're looking at an area that's now just Wichita for some hail, which again, estimated by the computer, it's about Gulf at the largest. That would be what we would anticipate storm that's now to the south of downtown Wichita. Still a dangerous storm, but fortunately we're starting to see a little bit of a downward trend in all of this, and we'll hope that that does continue to be the case. But if you are out driving around tonight, obviously this continues to be a lot of heavy rain and some hail that's coming on through the area. Let's get up to date here on some of these other storm reports. Here's one from near downtown Wichita at 8:24. So this is fresh information here. Guys, hail reported there. And then the storm out along the 235 loop out near the zoo. There you see it's a ping pong ball size hail along with some 2-inch hailstones. That kind of fits in with the eyewitness account that we got from Lance Ferguson here about 15 minutes ago as too. So the thunderstorm tonight continuing to go south. If you're west of 235, you're in the clear. So the storm is over with now and rain cooled air, because the front is pushing all of this on through. This little wind marker here, that's going to be your 71 mile per hour wind gust that was measured actually at McConnell Air Force Base. How difficult it is to estimate winds, but in situations like this, when the storm passes over an anemometer, wind sensor, and we actually get a measurement on the wind, it really helps to enhance our message here, especially from where the storm is ongoing and what's going to happen downstream. But McConnell Air Force Base as of the top of the hour with a 71 mile per hour wind gust there. Again, big picture, what are we looking at now? Come up on 8:30. Most of the storms have started to go through a weakening stage. So again, if you're west of 235, if you're out toward Mays or in Goddard, all clear. Andale, all clear. But from downtown Wichita on south and east, Derby, you missed out on storm 1, but what's coming in now looks like it could be perhaps up to golf ball size hail. And as we join our partners over at KNSS, again, we are bringing you up to date on what's happening with these storms in downtown Wichita. We've had a couple different reports of golf ball size hail. Next in line will be Hayesville and Derby. The storm is coming your way. So if you're traveling in that area tonight, you should know the storm does have a history of producing some golf ball size hail, and it does continue on that southeasterly trajectory at around 30 miles an hour. There's still heavy rain falling in downtown Wichita. We just continue to get one report after another of hail up to golf ball size, but there has been a slow, steady weakening of some of these storms. So something larger than 2 inches in diameter for hailstones, we wouldn't expect that tonight. But obviously, hail, if you're caught out driving through some of this, it's a challenge. So hopefully you're at home tonight watching our coverage here and the storm is coming on through without much fanfare for you. But this has been a pretty rough thunderstorm here that we're dealing with now in downtown Wichita. Areas west of 135, things are starting to clear up there. So this is now very much in terms of the larger hail now from Kellogg south down toward Hayesville and Derby. We're talking about MacArthur Road and the south part of Wichita now. We want Derby to be on heads up here because next in line, you could be experiencing some hail that might go up to golf size as the storm comes at you from the north and west. The core is showing up Oak Lawn, and it does go about as far south as 71st Street South and now moving in the Derby area. Of course, there's K15 that goes south from Wichita down toward the Derby area, and what's coming your way potentially, again, not a guarantee, but possible based on the sampling of the radar, and that's what this little beam is. Here's the Eisenhower Airport. So there's the radar, and we're sampling the storm, and it still looks like the potential is there for some hailstones up, possibly up to golf ball size. And again, that's impacting K15 from downtown Wichita to the Derby area. There is some heavy rain that's falling over here along Rose Hill Road and Butler Road. Of course, that coming north out of Rose Hill. That's all heavy rain, maybe some pea-sized hail in there. This is going to be a more impactful storm that we're looking coming through South Wichita. And over the last hour, watch for yourself as that storm continues to drop onto the south. It will likely go through Derby, or at least areas Derby west. Perhaps maybe some hail again up to golf ball size on that thunderstorm there. We've had a lot of active weather tonight. So far, by my accounts, the damage has been somewhat limited. But when you get a storm that has golf ball size hail or larger, and we've had several reports of that, we want to be mindful of, there's probably going to be some damage. There's probably going to be some windows that are knocked out. Here's an example of some of the hail that went through Lindsborg and McPherson earlier today. And that's some of the hail sizes that have been reported around Wichita. Here's another report. This is coming in from Scott, showing us some hail. This is actually up in the McPherson County area. That, of course, large hail up to the size of Tennessee baseball size. And Saline County, where it all got started early today, there you've got some baseball size hail. So tomorrow is going to be some of us. Also be aware that sometimes scammers come out in the wake of these storms and try to trick you into, convincing you that you need to get something fixed. Be aware of that. And of course, our news department will be covering that as well. But these thunderstorms continue to drop onto the south and east. It looks like the rain's starting to let up now in downtown Wichita. We've got another traffic to show you tonight. Take a look. This is 135 at 47th. So looking at an area here with some heavy rainfall. There may be something over there working. Again, this is 135 at 47th, so we're continuing to keep an eye on the traffic cams tonight. There have been some accidents out there. There have been some power outages. There is some damage. Those so far reports coming in have been limited, but given the hail size, the Wednesday evening yet, although the latest trends suggest to see a bit downward in the hail side with the storm as it now moves in on the Derby area. So we'll stay with you for a little while longer here. We like what we're seeing as far as the trends go with these thunderstorms as they continue to go south and east. So if you're west of 135, you're in the clear now. Storms have moved out of that area. If you're not, your threat of large hail over with for tonight. But Hayesville and Derby, again, you need to be watching for hail, maybe up to golf ball size as it comes at you from the northwest, areas along K15. And it has been a little while since we've been on these storms down here in Sumner and Cowley counties, but the storm that's north of Winfield, not really that spectacular. Perhaps hail maybe up to the size of Nichols with storm does continue to show signs of weakening there. and then around Wellington and areas just north, heavy rainfall and some small hail. But these storms that are south of Wichita down here in Cali and Sumner counties continue to look a bit weaker with every scan of the radar that continues to come on in. So again, as far as what's happening here in Sedgwick County, and we'll go out even further just so everybody can see what's going on. As the cold front continues to push on through northwest of Wichita, we're done. Things are quiet. We're in the clear and cooler temperatures for the rest of tonight. But from south of Wichita down toward Derby, Hayesville, and areas in Sumner and Cowley counties continue to keep a lot of focus right now for an ongoing hail threat. But again, in recent scans, it looks like things are starting to calm down a little bit. And even the storms that are still prompting warnings tonight, it looks like our threat of hail is meant to relax just a little bit. We'll take another sample here of the hail. See what's happening here. Okay, we're from about 10 minutes ago. Now we're estimating hail of about quarter size on this storm that's just to the west of Derby. So things are looking a little bit better there. Another look here as far as the heavy rain is concerned. We still see a lot of that on South Hydraulic. Certainly the turnpike south from Wichita, you're going to run into some heavy rain, windshield wipers on high for this kind of event. And then Derby, looks like your rain definitely started to pick up here, and you may get some hailstones up to quarter size now is what it's looking like. It doesn't appear that that golf ball size hail that we were alerting you a little while ago, it's probably smaller than that now as the storm comes to the area. If you are heading out and about on this Wednesday evening, there are going to be some areas that probably still have a lot of standing water. These storms have been producing some heavy rainfall, but not a lot of flooding. Storms have been on the move, and I think that we're going to continue to see things winding down here next 20 to 30 minutes as the front pushes this active weather out of the city of Wichita. So what we're going to do is we're going to move our coverage, and we've been in continuous coverage on 12.2, and we'll continue to provide updates. I think with this downward trend that we're seeing in all of this, not just in Sedgwick County, but Sumner and Cowley counties, we're now dealing with potential of quarter-size hail, some heavy rainfall, and this stuff is going to continue to race on to the south and east, and within the next hour, most of this will be out of the immediate area. Thanks for staying with us here on a Wednesday evening. Coverage continues on 12.2.
I don't ever remember having a male colleague, so I'm going to say agree.
Oh, gets the square!
The top row lights up.
Carolyn, you got it, which means you win the first round. You have racked up $1,000, but it's anyone's game. For Hollywood